Hi Arrows, I'm Kashawn and you are watching The Book Archer. Today's video we have quite the doozy. I'm going to be discussing all of the book series that I am currently reading. I have started these series and I plan on finishing them. Earlier this year, I noticed that I like to binge series, and that is a really great way for me to complete them. However, there are many series that I started while they were still having books put out, and those are ones that are harder for me to finish. A lot of them have since wrapped up, or I am trying to at least catch up on the books that are out. I am going to start with all the series that only have one book out in them, and obviously I've read the first book and decided that I'm going to continue on with it, and then we'll talk about the series that are ongoing and the ones that are completed. I just need to complete them. The first one is A Song of Wraiths and Ruins by Roseanne Brown. This is a series that just came out this year. I enjoyed this a lot. It is a duology and the conclusion to this series comes out next year. It is a fantasy that has a lot of strong African elements. I will be completing this duology once the sequel comes out. Next one is A River of Royal Blood by Amanda Joy. This is a fantasy I read last year. This is another one that is like an African based fantasy, and I really enjoyed this one because it has like people that are fae-like, it has people that remind me of vampires, and it has some more fantastical creatures that are more unique to this story and the setting. It follows a princess who is pit against her sister to try and go for the throne. However, the sister doesn't really play a role in the story. It's mainly about this character here, which is part of why I think they did a cover redesign for this. I think it's a trilogy, I'm not sure. This is the first book. I've read it already, and the second book comes out towards the beginning of next year. I'm super excited for the follow-up of A River in Royal Blood. Last one that I started this year that only has one book out is Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. One of, if not my favorite read of 2020. I love this book so much. Y'all are gonna hear me talk about this a lot in all my other videos. If you haven't seen me talking about it already, I will leave a link in the cards to any video where I have mentioned this amazing, wonderful book. This is an urban fantasy set in North Carolina, and it follows this main character who is trying to infiltrate this secret society. I don't even know how to explain how much I love this book. But yes, I will absolutely be rereading this, and I will be absolutely continuing on with the series. I know the next book comes out in the third or fourth quarter of 2021. I don't care if this series got 20 books in it. I'm reading all of them. I think that is it for the books that only have one book out in the series. The next one I have here is Crown of Feathers. This is a trilogy set in a fantastical world that has phoenixes and phoenix riders, and the story starts basically at 10 or 20 years after this major monarch has fallen. Phoenixes and phoenix riders are very rare. If they exist, they are in secret. It follows the two sisters and their journey. This is a book that is so rich in world building, has a lot of multi-character perspective. I just really am enjoying this. I love the first book. The second book, Heart of Flame, came out over the summer. I will be picking that up really soon, and the series wraps up next year, and hopefully I will be wrapping it up next year as well. Next in ongoing series, we have the Flyy Girls Quartet. This series is about 4 different girls who are part of the same group or clique at their performing arts school, and each of the books just follows the girls' personal journeys and personal struggles while attending that school, and how they all come together to be a shoulder to lean on for one another. The first and second book came out a couple of months ago, and book 3 is coming out at the beginning of the year. The next series is a series that you guys have heard me talk about earlier in the year, The Last Magician series by Lisa Maxwell. I talked about this series a lot in my mid-year book freakout tag. I have read the first book, The Last Magician, as well as the second book, The Devil's Thief. I think it's a 4-book series. The third book for this series comes out in April. This is a series where definitely the world expands more and more as you get into it, and these are really great on audio. It follows this main character who can time travel. She goes back to the early 1900s, I think 1902. I am all caught up and ready for the next one. Next series that's ongoing that I am currently reading is the War Girls. I don't know if this is a trilogy or not. I think it's a trilogy. This is a sci-fi set in futuristic Nigeria. Hopefully I can pick up a Rebel Sisters really soon, and then I'll be caught up on the series. I think the last book is going to be coming out in the next year or two. Next in series that I'm currently reading is one that y'all have heard me talk about on my channel as well, and that is Serpent and Dove by Shelby Mannering. I am caught up on this series. I have read Serpent and Dove as well as Blood and Honey. This is a trilogy that follows a witch and a witch hunter. The third book in this trilogy, called Gods and Monsters, will come out next year. And finally, for the books that I am caught up on in series that are ongoing, we have The Bells by Danielle Clayton. This is, y'all, I don't know how many books are supposed to be in this series, because honestly, after I read the second book, The Bells, I think last year or in 2018, I thought that was it, and then the third book was announced. Once that one comes out next year, I believe, I will be reading that one. This is also a series that is ongoing, and that is the Arcana Chronicles by Kresley Cole. I started reading these a few years ago. I love them. I have the first book, which is Poison Princess. I've read The Endless Night, and then I've read Dead of Winter. Books 4 and 5 are already out, but book 6, which is the conclusion to this series, has been pushed back twice. I'm not reading the rest of these until book 6 comes out, because I heard that book 5 ends on a major cliffhanger, and we don't know when we're getting book 6. So once book 6 is out, I will be binge reading the last 3 books in this series. This one definitely has a very unique urban fantasy setting. These are really fun. Kresley Cole does write adult urban fantasy and adult romance. If you're into that, then you might like these. The first book is kind of lukewarm, but I absolutely love the second book, and I enjoyed the third book as well. Those are all the books from ongoing series. These are the books where the series is completed and I just need to finish this series myself. I need a little water break. So the first series is going to be Zodiac by Ramina Wessel. This is a series where there are 12 planets in this universe. They each represent a zodiac sign, and this 13th planet appears that can threaten the entire zodiac solar system. The first book is Zodiac. The second book is Wandering Star, which I have also read. So in order to complete this, I just need to read Black Moon and 13 Rising. And we have a series that I have been talking about since I started my channel in 2014. And I still need to read the last 2 books in the series. And that is Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. I have already read Throne of Glass. Crown of Midnight, never owned it and didn't realize it, but Crown of Midnight is book 2. And we have Air of Fire, which I have already read. Assassin's Blade, which I highly suggest reading before Queen of Shadows, which is why I'm listing them in this order. Queen of Shadows, which I've also already read. Empire of Storms, which I've already read. I just need to read Tower of Dawn and Kingdom of Ash, and I will be finished with this series. Next for series that have already been completed, Ash Princess. I have read the first book in the Ash Princess trilogy. I still need to read Our Lady Smoke, book 2 in the trilogy, and an Ember Queen came out earlier this year, so this is still a very new trilogy. I really enjoyed this first book. It gave me that dose of like typical fantasy that I was looking for, but not to the point where I was annoyed, if that makes sense. I heard that the world really expands in book 2 and 3. So next up, Fallen Kingdoms series by Morgan Rhodes. This is a 6-book fantasy series that follows a bunch of multiple point of views, pitched as like the young adult version of Game of Thrones. That can kind of sort of be true. I have read Fallen Kingdoms, Rebel Spring, Gathering Darkness, and y'all, I cannot remember for the life of me if I've read Frozen Tides or not. I know that books 5 and 6 are Crystal Storms and Immortal Reign, but it's been so long since I read any of the books in this series that I don't even know if I read book 3 of the books or 4 of the books. I might reread the first ones before. Woo, y'all, we are almost done. Like, just bear with me. We're getting there. We have the Inheritance Cycle, which is, I believe it's a 4-book series. I have read the first book, Eragon. This is amazing on audiobook, by the way. The second book is Eldest. I cannot remember what books 3 and 4 are. I think one of them is called like Brissinger. I read the first one. I just need to read the other 3. This is definitely a quest story. It has dragons and elves, all of those classical fantasy elements. Next we have the Snow Like Ashes trilogy. It's been like maybe 4 years since I read this. I really want to reread the first one, and then I'm going to pick up book 2, Ice Like Fire. This follows a main character, Mare, who is a Winterian, and in this book there are 4 different nations that are based on the seasons. This is following the rebellion of the Winterian nation. Their nation was decimated. It's more than these different kingdoms that are based on the seasons. It's a lot of different elements. Next is going to be one of y'all's faves, and that is the Percy Jackson and the Olympians series. I have read books 1, 2, and 3, so I can't wait to finish these. I don't know if I'm going to reread the first ones before I finish that, but I do own the first book in the spin-off series for this, so in order to get to that one, I need to read this. Next up, we have The Reader by Tracy Chee. Originally, it was called the Sea of Ink and Gold trilogy, but they changed the name to the Reader Trilogy. This is a trilogy where the magic is steeped in the written work. The main character has a book. Her family has been on the run unbeknownst to her because of the book that she has held that they have hidden. At the beginning of this story, her caretaker is captured, and that kind of sets off a chain of events. I have already read the first book. I need to read the second book, which is The Speaker. Third book that wraps up the trilogy, which is called The Storyteller. I don't hear a lot about this series on BookTube, so I really want to make sure that I complete this one. Finally, we have the Mortal Instruments, the very last series that I still need to complete. I have read 6 books by Cassandra Clare, but the original Mortal Instruments trilogy wraps up so nicely that I never had continued on with the second half. I think I tried to read book 4, which is City of Fallen Angels, and I was bored to tears. Just haven't finished the series since then. I do want to go ahead and finish it so I can move on to some other Cassandra Clare books. I just need to read book 4, which is City of Fallen Angels, book 5, City of Lost Souls, and then book 6, City of Heavenly Fire, and then I will move on to some of the other spin-off series. Woo! We are done, y'all. Those are all the series that I'm currently reading. If you made it to the end of this video, put that little book stack emoji, the one that has like 3 books in it, since we're talking about series, in the comment section if you made it to the end of this video. What are the series that y'all think that I need to prioritize catching up on or finishing? I will have a video coming where I talk about the series that I will not be completing and continuing. Starting next year, I will be posting videos where I talk about like 10 or more completed series at a time. So I have completed quite a few series, not including these. So yes, I'm actually really excited. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at theBookArcher, and I will see y'all in my next video. Bye.